Hi, everyone. Super happy to see you all. Sorry, we were just in the last technical details to make sure that we're starting that right. So happy to see everyone. Welcome to the amazing first webinar of the Mayple Academy. We've been very busy. This is why you didn't see us for the last 5 months with new webinars. Building a wonderful community of really the sharpest minds in the email marketing industry. And they are here for you to teach you everything they learned from hands-on work with clients. So not only people who speak well, but actually people who work well and perform well. And those are the people that came here with all their experience behind them to share everything they know about email marketing and how to help you 10x what you're doing right now. So let me quickly introduce everyone here. So we have Sarah here with us, and we have Andrew and Sandra. Each of them will talk about a different aspect on how you can grow your email marketing activity. All of them are part of the Mayple community of experts. They were vetted. They have amazing experience behind them, amazing performance behind them. So you really came to hear from the best about how to increase your email marketing results and really boost your performance. So this is why we're here today. I'm not going to add more intros there because we have a lot to cover. So we'll start with Andrew here, who is going to take it from here. Andrew, hi, how are you doing?
Hey, Eric, I've had very well, thanks to yourself. Yeah,
Amazing.
so yeah, great. Really happy to be here today and just share some of my knowledge. So, just as a brief intro, I am a RevOps person. I look specifically at everything from starting a stack through to data and analysis and ultimately strategy. So, obviously, email marketing is a huge part of that. So, today I'm going to be speaking about two things. I'm going to be speaking about content strategy and I'm going to be speaking about journeys and automation. So, what you say is as important as how you present it. So, I'm going to throw a spoiler in here. There is no one size fits all, but there are some best practices that you can follow. So, I look at it that there's 5 core pillars, and that's content length, user graphics, headings, personalization, and e-commerce blocks. Now, obviously, the last one only applies if you're an e-commerce company, but the first 4 are common amongst every email campaign that should be going out. So on the content length strategy, it should be neither too long nor short. And I know that's probably the least helpful line in there. However, you can look at your industry standards and you can kind of baseline your content strategy along that. So typically with like B2B or news publications, you can write longer emails. So if I think of something like the New York Times, the email that I get from them every day, it's probably a 2,000-word email. And I read every single word of it. But on the business to consumer side of things, on the B2C side, attention spans are short and there is a lot of noise in the market. So you're competing with a lot of brands. So ultimately, your content strategy for that is to really punch in hard and cut through that noise. This is something that you'll probably hear repeatedly from me today is test, 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 and test again. At the end of the day, you need to figure out what your content strategy is by iterating and testing and ultimately getting to that point where you know what the happy medium is. There is no magic word count that's going to give you the conversions. Every single audience out there is different. So you really need to test to see how that word count works for you along the way. So a helpful tip here is sign up to your competitors' email newsletters. See what they're doing. See how they're doing their campaigns and see what you can do to make them better, to really be able to cut through that noise that I was speaking of. On the graphics usage side of the strategy, I'm just going to go on a very high level on this because I'm not really covering the graphical layout. So on this is you need to match your graphics to your content. That's vitally important. You can't have a disconnect in what your imagery is. So take an e-commerce site, for example. You can't talk about shoes and have an image of watches. That's at its most basic. You also need to balance the amount of images to text. Now, again, this is dependent on your target audience. So with the B2B market, fewer images, but stronger text is recommended. Where in B2C, you want really powerful images that capture the attention, And then your text becomes the supporting factor to that. A big no-no is never, ever send an email that is a single image that has all your copy on it. And there are multiple reasons for this, primarily around responsiveness, and so mobile responsiveness, and on a lot of, especially enterprise systems, but a lot of email clients that actually block images immediately. So if you're looking for a great AI tool, this is just a little helpful hint that I'll throw in there. Have a look at this link that I'm sending through in the chat right now. It's a really cool site for AI generation. They're in their early stages. So they do give you some credits every day. They essentially allow you to create one image a day, and it's all prompt based. So it's a lot of fun. Just don't get stuck down the rabbit hole like I have many times. On the headings side of things, think of your headings as your seasoning to your emails. You always need a primary heading. So if you think about it, have an H1 heading. That primary heading really outlines what the nature of your email is. If you're doing longer form emails, use your headings to break sections up. So you have, and this will come in a little bit later in the design stage, is being able to break your content up really allows people to go through it. So especially if people are doing a skim through the email, having a strong heading there will allow them to go, oh, this is what this section's about. I'm going to read through it. So it really allows you to get your point across. But don't use the same text size for your headings. So use different tags, H1, H2, H3, H4. All of them have different weights to them. And again, test this out. See what your audience is really reacting to. Only ever have one H1 tag. So you only ever want to have one big bold heading. And then all your other headings would either be H2, H3, or H4. And make sure that you use strong language in your headings, language that's going to make people want to convert. So a tip here is when you're writing your email out, is read through your content again and find where there's a natural break in the conversation. Now, we do this in spoken word all of the time. We reach the end of a thought, and then we kind of like preface the next thought with, in my opinion, a heading. So if there is a natural break, add the heading in there. If, however, you are sending us a short email where it's just a punchy, kind of like special buy now, Black Friday type of thing, very often you won't need to use multiple headings. This is probably personalization. This is, in my opinion, probably one of the most important parts of a content strategy. At the very least, you're going to want to address the email to the person's name. So, hello, Andrew, or hello, Sandra, or hello, Ben. Now, this goes a long way. If you're speaking to a person, the psychology behind it is you're speaking with them rather than them just being an anonymous email address in your user database. So in specifically a MailChimp, but you have your merge fields where you can use those merge fields to create deeper personalization. And this is really where I find personalization to come in handy. So I'm going to use the example of an e-commerce store because you've got a lot of the information already in there. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, hey, Andrew, so first name, you have made X. So I've purchased 20 products on their site, or 20 orders on their site. So you have made 20 purchases and would love to offer you this discount as a loyalty. So you can see the depth of personalization that you're really going in there. So always add some level of personalization to your emails. And always set a default tag. So say, for example, you've got your first name and you haven't captured that person's first name. You don't want it to go hi, space, comma. Rather than add in a default tag that's there or something like that. So just so that you're saying, hey, there. And this can all be found in the system. Obviously, each merge tag is very different. So you would need to come up with a default value for them and always make a default value that makes sense. So that if there isn't a value to that merge tag, at least when you insert it, will make sense. Now, another helpful tip here is personalize your to field as well. So when you're setting your email address or your email campaign up, make sure that you're personalizing who it gets sent to. So in an email client, as you'll find, it'll go, say your name to, and then if you don't do this, it'll just say Andrew at fullstackmo.com, for example, or whereas if you put in the personalization in the two, it'll say it's come from, let's say, for example, Mayple to Andrew Royal. It's these small little aspects that may not seem to be a huge impact, psychologically have a very deep impact on your strategy. Moving on to e-commerce blocks. Now, this is only applicable if you run an e-commerce store. So for those that are not running e-commerce stores, interesting to know, but those that are running e-commerce stores, always integrate your email service provider with your store. It's non-negotiable. What that allows you to do when you have this integration in place is when a person places an order, let's say, for example, in Shopify or WooCommerce, MailChimp gathers that data. It's passed into MailChimp as data, and you can use that data for multiple reasons. One, you can use it, as I mentioned, in your merge tags. But two, you can also use it for reporting, for remarketing ads to people that have purchased from you before. So always integrate your email service provider. When you're building out your campaigns and your journeys, which I'll go through in a second, is use those. You have e-commerce blocks that can dynamically add content to your email. So you can say, for example, type out a quick email and you say products you might like, and then add in a dynamic block and set it to show the best-selling products. So you don't have to go in and manually add products to your email. Your system will do it for you. What you will see when you start doing this is your engagement rates are going to increase and your revenues will increase. Then on top of that, you'll be able to segment your lists even deeper to send more targeted email content. So what I'd recommend here is to test out some different offers or different different content blocks and how you do it, and really see which is resonating with your audience most. So what you'll see throughout this entire content strategy, and I mentioned it right at the beginning, is test. If you're a new account, test so you know exactly what to do. If you have an established account, find a sample size and test with them. But at the end of the day, every single email that you send out needs to have some sort of data behind it to show what's working best. Another great way of doing it is to look at your reports and find where your outliers are. So create a baseline. That baseline can be set to, say, for example, open rates. And then find your outliers. What has a much higher open rate or what has a much lower open rate? And use those as case studies as to why that content either performed well or didn't perform well. So yeah, based on your content strategy, you really want to be able to analyze your content strategy at the end of the day. Moving into my next section, which is journeys and automation. So this is fun. This is some of my favorite part of pretty much any tech stack is automations, and being able to optimize your workflow with you having to do as little as possible and having an account that works for you 24 hours a day. So again, I've got 5 quick tips. So I'm going to go into what is a journey. I'm going to then talk about simple journeys. Then I'm going to talk about pseudocode. Now, don't get scared by that tone or by that term. I will go into what it is. I'll then talk about if-else journeys, and then just a couple of my workflow tips that I've found have worked for me over the years. So a journey is just an automated sequence that triggers when a condition is met. So say, for example, a person signs up to your email newsletter list. That's the trigger, and then the journey would follow on from that. So what it allows you to do is to send targeted contact that is action-based. So when something happens, something gets sent, for example. In the beginning, yes, the setup, there is a time investment to it. It can be a bit of a heavy lift, but the main word that you need to really focus on here is the word investment. So while it might take you some time in the beginning to set these up, just in terms of person hours, at the end of the day, it will pay off and you will see your ROI and your ROMI increase. So use your journeys to drive engagement, loyalty, revenue. Really, that's what you want to do, is you want to be able to be engaging with clients. And my aspect of personalization comes very much deeply into this. So all email service providers have some form of automation, but MailChimp specifically uses the phrase journeys for this. So I will go ahead and use journeys for the rest of this this presentation. So what is a simple journey? A simple journey can be a single entry point, a decision-making point, and then an action point. So take, for example, the trigger, which is the entry point. A person signs up to your newsletter. Your decision-making point is you want to wait 24 hours, and after 24 hours, you want to send them a welcome email. So this is the most basic of journeys that's out there, and one that I can highly recommend. This is almost, again, non-negotiable. You should always have a journey that welcomes new subscribers to your list. Again, the psychology, it makes them feel special. It makes them feel heard. You can also, on a simple journey, because it's a single line down, you can add additional points in. So you can say there, well, I want to wait an additional week, and now I want to send an email that basically says to the subscriber, hey, thanks for looking around. Here are 5 of our best-selling products, for example. And that's what's considered a single journey. There's no branching logic in it. It just goes down a simple flow. So I know that in a future webinar, there will be information about copywriting for your emails. But typically with journeys is you want short, strong content because you do not want to burn that subscriber base from the beginning. So don't have a system where you have the trigger, then you wait 24 hours, then you send an email, then you send another email, then you send another email without waiting in between. So you really want to make sure that you use that time delay very, very well. The scary term for the day, which is pseudocode. So basically, pseudocode is the basic principles of any computer coding. So any language out there uses the same basic premises. So the core premise is that it's 3 steps. If something happens, then do this. Else, if it didn't meet the first criteria, do this. So that is conditional logic. That's what is considered to be conditional logic. Now, a lot of email service providers, all of the automations are built off this premise. So understanding conditional logic and how it can apply to your journey is really what can make or break your flow. So when you're considering working with conditional logic, you need to ask yourself just what makes the most sense. Because at the end of the day, conditional logic is common sense. If I do this, I want to do this. But if it doesn't happen, then what do I do then? So we use the if then else in our daily lives all the time. So that's where I come into this section. And this is the if else journeys. And this is now where the true power in automation comes in. So I could sit in this thing and take up the entire webinar talking about just if else journeys, but I'm going to give you a very kind of high level brief of what you can do. So let's say, for example, the triggers come in, you've waited, they've received your first email. If they've opened it, then wait for 5 days and send them a survey. If they don't, which is the else, send a follow-up. Then you can go on to say that if the clients received that email, opened it, and filled out the survey, that's the if, then send them a voucher. The else here is if they haven't filled out the survey, send them a prompt to do it. So if else is just conditional logic. So MailChimp has a very comprehensive function for this, where you can build custom segments per journey item. So per decision point, you can build these custom segments. I recommend playing with the system in draft. Don't make things go live until you're completely comfortable with it. And if you do find yourself struggling with the conditional logic or making sure that things are triggering at the right time, I can recommend just hiring a freelancer for a few hours just to do a do it with you situation where you go through the system together. The do it with you is great because then you can get the learnings yourself. I have, however, seen that the do it for you value can be valuable as well, because then it frees up your internal resources. So this is just showing you how MailChimp shows the depth of logic. So you can see here that there's branching logic in multiple areas with the triggers, with the decision points, and the emails that go along with it. So this is just how MailChimp lays it out. A lot of service providers do the same sort of flow. But yeah, this is, while it can look a little bit scary because there are so many branches within it, it really is just following a step. If they do this, then do this. Else do this. So some of my workflow tips on journeys is always define your starting point. So make sure your starting point is really really powerful, and that is exactly where you want to start from. You can have more than one starting point, but that again is a discussion that can last for another hour. But know that you can have people coming into the journey from two different triggers. Use the time delay feature. This is it. You don't want to spam your clients. You don't want to burn your list. Your list obviously is very important, and you don't want churn of new subscribers. And using that time delay feature is really, really powerful. The first email that you send out within your journey, let's say, for example, it's a welcome journey or any type of journey, is give context to what that journey is. So almost without saying it, explain to the new subscriber what they can expect going forward, so that when they receive these emails from their journey, they understand that, oh yes, this is related to that email I received yesterday or that email I received last week. When you're building your segments, ensure that within the segment builder that you do use the opened or clicked option in your branching logic, as that will be almost the deciding factor as to whether they move on to the next phase. Obviously, that you can then choose any of your other variables within it. When I build journeys personally, I want my if-else statements to be set as an AND operator, not an OR operator. So AND operator means that they need to match every single one of the criteria that I've laid out. Obviously, an OR statement, or maybe not obviously, but an OR statement comes in where they can match any of the criteria on there. Personally, I'm an AND person. And now, be flexible. What works for one client or one audience may not work for others. So make sure that you, again, even in your journeys, that you're testing your journeys along the way to make sure that you are getting the best results possible. Again, if you're struggling with the conditional logic side of things, reach out to a fellow email marketer, reach out to a fellow just marketer in another profession. Somebody that works specifically in the marketing operations side of things is good, or the RevOps side of things is good. And again, if that doesn't play out, looking at hiring a freelancer, I said it was an investment up front. Not only as a time investment, there may be a capital investment as well. But at the end of the day, it's going to pay off, and you will see revenues on your side growing. So I am going to hand it over to Sarah now.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm Sarah. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my screen. So I'm gonna, basically my name is Sarah. I'm an email marketing manager in my everyday life. And I've been in email marketing for about 12 years now. I love email marketing. It's a passion of mine. So this is really exciting to be here with you guys. So I'm just going to jump into email design. This is one of my favorite components of email marketing. And we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of best practices. So I'm just going to dive right in. So basically there are 6 components of email design. Content, which Andrew went through in more detail. In this situation, we're going to be looking at it in terms of copy, structure, so the wireframe, or basically the skeleton of the email, the hierarchy of information, where you should place your CTAs, things like that. Typography, which is looking at fonts, web-safe fonts, font sizes, responsivity, which is an important one, basically making sure that emails render successfully on PC, tablet, and mobile, and CTAs, call to action buttons. That's also one of the most important components of email design. And then looking at visuals in general. So there was a study conducted a few years ago on using heat maps looking at the ways in which people view emails. So their reading pattern. And what they discovered were two things. The first thing is that people spend on average about 6 seconds on an email, just to give you an idea of how little time we have to capture their attention. And the second thing was that people don't like to read. They scan emails, and that makes sense because people are a lot more busy these days. There's tons of emails to compete with. So people scan for specific words that catch their attention. And this is done in the F-shaped pattern. So typically what they found is that people will first scan the headline. If there's anything in there that catches their attention, they'll then continue to scan the rest of the email, geared more towards the left-hand side. They'll do a little bit of a check throughout the middle and then continue down. So this is important to keep in mind when you are creating your emails and the structure of the email, that this is typically how people will view your email within an average of 6 seconds. So design best practices. So I always am a big fan of keeping things simple, avoid clutter, use a simple layout, try to make it very easy to read, easy on the eyes. You don't want to overwhelm people because once they feel overwhelmed, they're going to close your email and they're not going to come back. Mobile responsiveness. So I mean, this is pretty much something that most email service providers take care of for you, like Klaviyo or MailChimp, where your email must be optimized for mobile devices simply because more than 50% of people now view their emails on their mobile device. But also it should be responsive for tablet and PC as well. Clear call to actions. For me, this is the most important part of an email. It does depend what is the main goal of your email, of course, what kind of action you want the subscriber to take. But it needs to be prominent, compelling. It needs to have some kind of verb or action you'd like them to take. Don't depend on subscribers to kind of try to figure out what it is you want them to do. You should tell them with the call to action what step you want them to take. Consistent branding. You want to make sure that the branding on your email matches the branding on your website with your other branding guidelines, logo, colors, fonts. You really want to be consistent, and that builds trust and credibility in your brand. Using readable fonts. So a lot of different email service providers now give the option to use Google fonts, for example. And what will happen is if it doesn't render properly on someone's device, then there's a fallback font, which is web-safe. But I would say in general, stick to web-safe fonts, easy to read, and that are they render properly on all devices and clients. Legible text size. So I really would suggest to keep your font size of at least 14 pixels. You really don't want people to have to zoom in to be able to read your emails. It's just not good practice. And also for the font, you really just want to stick to a maximum of 2 different fonts. It does depend on your brand guidelines, of course. But again, you don't want to use a really complicated script font, for example, where people are going to have to zoom in and they can't read it. And so try to keep it, again, very simple. White space. Leave enough white space around elements to avoid a cluttered appearance. And I would suggest this for white space around CTA buttons or CTAs in general. White space actually can be used to highlight important things in your email. So don't feel that your email is not a landing page. It's really not meant to be just another place where people can look at your website. Don't be afraid to leave that white space. Avoid heavy use of images. There really should be a good ratio between text and image. What I mean by text is HTML. There are some people who will use a drag and drop and their whole email is image based. That could work. It's not usually a best practice, but if you have good deliverability, then that could make sense. But make sure that you optimize your images, that they're not so heavy, because there are email clients like Gmail who will actually clip your email when the email is too long, too heavy. Try to use a single column layout. It's better for compatibility across devices, easier to scroll on, and easier to kind of, it's the best way for hierarchy of information. CTA, so this is just to give a little bit of an example of the difference between a good CTA and a bad CTA. So really, you don't want to have your CTA button take up the whole width of the email. Just keep, a very simple button with always make sure you have a verb-related word in there, get the guide. You don't want to have you want to leave some space around the text and the button itself, just so that it's readable, legible. And then also you want to make sure that your CTA button is above the fold. So they should be able to see the CTA button right after your value proposition or your headline without them having to scroll. So this would be an example of an email that incorporates good design best practices. So you have a hero image there that provides a little bit of an aesthetic element. You have a headline, you have your value proposition, and then you have a CTA button right there that's very visible. All the CTA buttons have the same color. You really want to be consistent with that because people are creatures of habit, and they'll start to identify the colors you use for your CTA. I mean, I'm sure when you see an orange CTA button, you think of Amazon, right? So try to be consistent with that. And then there's one main message and two secondary messages. You don't want to have more than that because then it starts to get a little bit too much. I would say this is a good length. It does depend on your business and based on what Andrew was saying, but this would be a pretty good structure for an email. Email acquisition. So this one is really a big one for a lot of people, especially for people who are looking, they may not have a very large list. And so you want ideas as to how you can build your list, because your email marketing is only as good as the quality of your list. And ideally, you want to have a very large list with very engaged people. That's what we all want. But there's two main questions you need to ask yourself before embarking on the journey of collecting emails, which is, number one, how do you get people to give you their email address? Because nowadays people do expect an incentive. And number two, where do your best email customers come from? You don't want to have a large list of people who are not qualified. So those are two questions you need to ask yourself prior to deciding what's the best avenue for you. So quality email list is really, first of all, it's really important that you collect permission. It's permission based. So you want the best emails are from people who explicitly signed up to your list, whether it's through single opt-in or double opt-in. Creates trust between your brand and the customer. It's, they basically said, yes, I'd like to receive your newsletters. Number two, relevant. You need to make sure you're attracting the right target audience. Your service offering or product needs to be of interest to your customers. Three, accurate and current. You really want to make sure that your emails are spelled correctly. You want to avoid things like hard bounces, clean out your list regularly, or put aside or archive some of the older, non-engaged people. A clean list is always more engaged. And any email service provider out there now does expect quality lists. In fact, there are some email service providers that will actually kick out clients if their email list is really not clean or of good quality. Number four, engaged. Once you make sure your list is permission-based, relevant, and clean, your engagement rates automatically should reflect that. So the number one thing, and I know that, maybe in the past, maybe not as much now, but a lot of people are tempted to buy email lists, and it's highly, highly discouraged. The main reasons are most email service providers or autoresponders will not accept sending to this list. It's very dangerous for domain reputation, IP reputation. You'll run into a lot of deliverability and reputation issues and can get yourself blocked. Spam issues. So because these people have not necessarily opted in, your spam rates will go up further, damaging your reputation. You don't know what you're buying until you actually start sending to it. So you're really going in blind. And it's already been proven it doesn't work. If it did, then, we would just everyone would just be buying lists and blasting emails to them. So it's really the best ways to collect them organically. So there's two ways, off website and on website. SEO, so search engine optimization, is obviously the ideal way for organic traffic to get people on your website. Paid ads and social media, events or conferences, or if you're a company that is brick and mortar, asking for emails in store is a good one. And gamification, so contests, giveaways, scratch and save, spin the wheel. People love those kinds of things. On your website, so pop-ups are really, really super popular and still very effective. There are some best practices around, pop-ups, of course. That's a discussion for another time, but you want to make sure you use lead magnets. So give people a reason why they should give you their emails. Opt-in your header or footer of your website, and your checkout page or account creation page. You should always be, in any touch point, you should be looking to ask for their emails. So lead magnets, what are some examples of those? So it depends on your business and your business model. It could be discounts, coupons, free trials, white papers, videos, ebooks, free reports. It could just be some, saying, sign up for exclusive offers, tips and tricks. You really need to entice them with something. And so this is, if you're in retail, this is a great kind of pop-up for retail. It's very simple. Keep in touch, sign up for newsletters, and they give a 10% off promo code. Use short, compelling copy with a clear CTA, and always A/B test. A/B test all of the elements in there. Which leads us into A/B testing. So A/B testing is basically split testing. It's a great way. It's very, very, very powerful because it's the best way to optimize your email marketing campaigns, and it puts to rest any assumptions. You don't have to assume. Sometimes we do have assumptions about the behavior of our list, but that's not a good way to go. It's really best to test. So these are different elements that you can test. So subject lines is a big one to increase your open rates. It doesn't really affect your click rates or anything like that. It's really for open rates. You could test things like short subject lines, not more than 4 words versus long ones. You can also test, adding in a first name in there. Number 2, copy. So testing different words, different types of headlines, even tone of voice to see what does better. Number 3, length, testing shorter versus longer. It really depends on the business model. Some companies still opt to sending out longer emails. It's best to test. Number 4, imagery. So for example, if I put human beings in the images that I'm using, does that do better than when I just have, let's say, illustrative elements in there? What gets more clicks, basically? But you want to make sure that you are analyzing the right KPI. You can also test colors. Does red provide more urgency? Does that get more clicks? Personalization, I already mentioned this one, first name in the subject line versus no name. Number 3, CTAs. This is going to be a really important one to test. Do buttons work better? Do links work better? And then the from name. This is actually one that people don't often think to test, but it can really make a big difference in your open rates, which is, and maybe you've seen this, people put a name, someone from the company, in front of the business name. So let's say Claire at Nolan Painting versus just putting Nolan Painting. So just to recap, you really want to make sure that you define a goal. What is it that we want to achieve with the A/B test? Do we want to look at increasing open rates, click-through rates, conversions? Then you want to define what element you're going to test. It's really recommended you test only one element at a time and test it maybe at least 3 times. It could be the subject line, could be the other components that we mentioned. And then you have to formulate a hypothesis. So create educated guesses about how changing the selected element could impact your goal. So for example, If we add from the first name and the subject line, I hypothesize that this will lead to higher open rates. Segment your audience. There are two different ways you can segment. Some people like to do 50-50. So half of the audience will receive one type of, the email without the change, and then the other 50%, the email with the change. And some people like to do a sub-segment. So they'll take out, let's say, 20% of their list to the side, 10% will receive one version, and the other 10% will receive another version. And then the winner of those two will be sent to the rest of their list. So it's really going to depend on what makes more sense for you. Create variations. I just mentioned you want to have two different variations, one that's Control A, the other Control B. And then set up your A/B test. Depending on what email service provider you have to kind of check out how that works. It's a little bit different for each one. Control group, we talked about. Send your emails and monitor them. Usually, I would say within the first 2 to 4 hours, you start to have a good idea of which one is winning. Once the winner is determined, you want to make sure that there's a defined goal, there's a good conclusion, a statistically significant conclusion. You might find that there is no clear winner, but that's why you need to test more than once. And then once you have your answer, you can apply the winning variation moving forward. So that's that for A/B testing. I'll go a little bit into reporting as well. I know someone was asking about KPIs. So reporting in email marketing plays a crucial role in understanding the performance of your email campaigns. These are the most important KPIs to look for any kind of email campaign. So these are basically the main drivers or main kind of relevant goals that you have for email marketing. So we'll start off with the open rate. So basically, that's the rate of people who have opened your email, who have received a specific campaign. Click rate is a metric that measures the percentage of people who see your email and click on it. There's two types of click rates. One is the amount of people, so the click to open, which is the amount of people who have clicked an email who originally opened the email, and a click-through rate, which is how many people click the email out of receiving the email, both of which are important metrics to keep an eye on. Email bounce rate measures the portion of your email recipients who didn't receive your message. Could be a soft bounce, could be a hard bounce. Hard bounces are really, it could be a spelling error in their email address. Usually, most email service providers will remove them automatically if you hit those. But that's why it's important to keep a clean list. Conversion rate is the percentage of subscribers who complete a goal action. I don't want to put a dollar amount to that because it really depends on what you consider a conversion for your company. And the unsubscribe rate is basically when someone no longer wishes to further receive emails from you. And you want to make sure that stays usually below 1%. Same thing for the bounce rates. This is just to give you global benchmarks. There are other places where you could find industry benchmarks, but typically the average open rate globally is 17.80%. Click-through rate is 2.60. Click to open is 14.30. Unsubscribe rate is 0.1, and the bounce rate is 0.7. So this wraps up this part, but basically, this is all just looking at best practices, and hopefully with implementing everything, you should see that your metrics are pretty high. I'm going to stop sharing and I will pass it on.
Hi. Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandra, and I'm going to, one second, I can't do two things at a time. I want to share my my screen here. Amazing. Great. Yeah, I thought I could do two things at the same time, but I can't. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandra. I am a digital marketer and e-commerce expert. I work with brands to help them scale by diversifying traffic and sales sources. And of course, email marketing is a huge portion of that. And I'm really excited to talk to you tonight, or today, it's night in my time, today about audience segmentation and keeping a clean list. So there are about 70 people here tonight. By the way, thank you so much for registering and for attending. And luckily, we all speak the same language, English, of course, which is super useful because if we didn't, you wouldn't have been able to be dazzled by Sarah and Andrew with all of these amazing strategies that I've shared with you tonight. Now, sometimes your subscribers and your customers, they don't speak the same language, or they may speak the same language, but they speak a different dialect, different than you, the company that is communicating with them, and different from each other. Now, I'm not talking about a situation where you have different lists, one that speaks French, one that speaks English, or dialects as in Canadian English, American English, UK, Romanian English with a foreign accent. But I'm talking about the marketing language, the language that you use to communicate with your audience, with your subscribers, with your customers, the marketing language that has the power to really make your business thrive. It's a language that when used in a very targeted way, in a very personalized way, it has the power to create intimate conversations with your audience, with your buyers, with your subscribers. It has the power to create different experiences for them as you're communicating with them, as a brand, as a company, whether it's B2B or B2C. And that's exactly what audience segmentation does. So take one step back and without the metaphors and in very plain terms, audience segmentation in email marketing really is dividing your subscribers into different groups of individuals that are similar and specific ways that is relevant to you, the brand, and relevant to their experience in interacting with your brand. So that can be anything from age, gender, interests, spending habits. So when you segment your audience in different groups, when you create different targeted groups of people that you want to talk to through your email marketing, it really allows your brand to create a personalized experience. So when you're talking to your audience, you're talking in their specific language and their specific dialects. So when it comes to segmenting your audience and creating targeted campaigns and targeted flows and automations in some cases, or however email service providers want to call them sometimes, automations, journeys, flows, when you are targeting your communication, you are essentially creating a more personalized experience. You create messages that really resonate with different segments of your audience. It can be as simple as a nuance where you have, for instance, a group of your audience or a segment of your audience that is a buyer in e-commerce and a segment that is just a subscriber. When you are writing to that buyer and you are presenting a new collection, you say, hey, Sandra, I know you're going to love this product because you have purchased this other product. You are showing them that you know what they're all about. You're showing them that they have purchased with you. You're appreciating that. There's an underlying message that comes with that email. If you had sent the same exact email to your subscriber that has never purchased from you, maybe it's Andrew who just arrived on your email marketing list yesterday. You don't even have an idea what your company is about yet. And you're saying, hey, Andrew, I know you're going to like the new collection because you bought this other collection. It's not going to make sense to Andrew. You're going to end up in the social or other inbox. But what you can do, and it literally takes as little as 10 to 20 seconds, is instead of saying, I know you're going to love this because you've purchased this, you can say something along the lines of, I know you're going to love this, Andrew, because 10,000 other people went crazy for it the moment we launched. It's a different message. So creating targeted content really helps you create an intimate conversation with your subscribers and your customers. You'll also get increased engagement. So when you segment your audience and when you speak to different audience segments, you get more engagement from every segment because you're delivering content that aligns with their specific needs, with their specific behaviors, with their specific wants, right? you touch on what gets them ticking, and then in return they'll respond. So that's how you're going to see your higher open rates and click-through rates and overall increase in revenue. You're also going to aid your customer retention. So when you segment your email list and talk to different audiences, you are going to retain more customers. Because if someone, so your email marketing list is an asset, right? You have an asset that is very different in social media, for instance. On social media, that real estate of feed is extremely expensive. You have to fight your competitors, you have to outbid them, you have to make sure that the algorithm is working in your favor. When you're creating an email marketing list, you are creating an asset of an audience that you control the message that goes out to them. You're controlling the narrative that's being said about your company. And that's extremely powerful. So when you speak to an audience, when you have an audience's attention, which is, some say that that attention is actually even more valuable than time in today's age. When you have your audience attention, you're going to be able to retain your customers. You're going to make more sales, repeated sales, increase your average order values. If you're in e-com, if you are in SaaS, for instance, or in service, you're going to retain them through that communication, that community building, and so on. And there's a lot more benefits to segmentation. I'm going to go over 3 more. Enhanced ROI, which kind of ties into everything else I said, but email marketing in its own is one of the highest ROI activities that you can do for your business, any business, whether you're a B2C brand, a B2C company, any business, over and over and over again, email marketing shows to be extremely powerful. Now, take that email marketing being powerful and layer it with, I have this audience and this audience and this audience, and I'm sending this one master message that is very catered to each of these audiences. See what happens. I guarantee you it's going to be beautiful things for your revenue and for your profits. You're also going to get a lot better analytics and reporting, because when you're using a blanket approach to a blanket audience, you're going to get blanket reporting and blanket analytics. Now, when you are working at a granular level with your audiences, and when you're sending those messages catered specific to different audiences, you're going to be able to leverage the full power of analytics that a lot of email service providers have, like Klaviyo, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, and so on. You're going to be able to use this data to make informed and smart email marketing decisions, and then continue to build your email marketing campaigns and flows, automation strategy, so that it can bring you more revenue and more profits. And you're bringing essentially to your marketing repertoire optimized marketing resources. So when you send a campaign to a segment that is targeted, that speaks their language, that talks about their needs, first of all, you're showing them that you kind of have it all together. You understand them. You know what they're all about. You know what problems they have that you are in a position to solve better than your competitors. And overall, you're going to see the benefit of cost savings and a more streamlined process overall. So lots of benefits to segmenting your audience in email marketing, extremely powerful. So let's talk about how you can segment your audience, because there's so many ways. And for the purpose of being respectful of your time, I think I only choose 12. Only 12. So I'm going to go over 12 that I think are powerful and have a high ROI and that I've seen work for most brands. And I'm going to also explain to you which ones you should start with if you're at square one with your segmentation. So one of the ways you can segment your audience is by demographic data. So that can be age, gender, income, if you have that kind of information. So that would be something as simple as you're a shoe brand and you have women's shoes and men's shoes. So you know through your data that you have this many women and this many men on your list. So when you are sending promotions, you will send the women's shoes collections to women and the men's shoes collections to men. Of course, you can always make cater to your brand, but that is the basic idea. Then you have behavioral segmentation. So that is a segmentation that is a little bit more, in my opinion, in depth. And that is one portion of email marketing that requires a little bit more data understanding, but that is based on customer behavior or interactions or purchase history. So when you have data like Sandra has purchased from this collection and from this collection, this shoe and that color, Then you can pair that information with, what else would Sandra like? First of all, I love shoes. So honestly, you can just put any shoe in front of me. I'm probably going to look at it and be interested in it. But there is always going to be something that Sandra, the shoe lover, will like along with the shoes she just purchased. So that is behavioral targeting. Then you have something that we call psychographic segmentation. So that is actually based on lifestyle, attitudes, or psychological criteria. So I'll give you an example here. We have actually own a couple e-commerce brands myself, one of them being a hearing device company. So a lot of our audience, so everybody in our audience pretty much needs hearing devices for themselves. Most of our audience is in the 65 age and up range, but we do have some audiences that are in the 40, 50 and below. So when we are what we can do with our segmentation here is someone that's 65 or 70 will have a little bit of a different language they use, perhaps a different likes, different needs as someone that's like 30, for instance, right? So with our audience, it's a little bit older. They love a lot of memes, a lot of cheesy jokes, a lot of those cartoons. With someone that's a little bit younger, we talk more about hearing prevention and perhaps give them tips, talking about what else they can do in their active lifestyle that it can incorporate so that they prevent their hearing getting worse and worse and worse by the time they're 65. When they're 65 and 70, sometimes some information regarding how to cope with it can be a little bit more helpful for them. That's at least what we've seen. There's geographic segmentation, of course. So if you operate in multiple states, in multiple countries, in multiple locations, then you can target customers based on their location. So it's pretty straightforward. Then you have your seasonal segmentation. So for your audience that they may not want to receive emails from you all the time, but they're interested usually in seasonal items. So they love holidays, love Christmas, they love Easter. Those are the ones that you want to email about your Easter promotions first. Then there's also life cycle segmentation. So that would be targeting individuals based on the stage they're at in their customer life cycle. So that would be real good for automations and flows, for instance. So if someone has just signed up to be on your email marketing list, they should receive different kinds of emails than someone that's been on your email marketing list for 6 months, right? So someone that's been there for 6 months, they know who you are, they know your company, they know your story. Someone that just joined needs a little bit of information before they make the decision to buy from you. So an example that I have here is someone that just joined. Is that Uber? I think it was Uber Eats. I can't see where my class. I think that's Uber Eats. So the email that I have here is an example of life cycle segmentation. So someone that just signed up with Uber, they receive a $50 off their first 2 orders. Then there's a purchase intent segmentation. So that will be your targeting based on your customer's readiness or intention to buy. So that would be sending very targeted follow-ups to someone in browse abandonment, for instance. So if I'm looking at a product and I'm not ready to buy it yet, if you've looked at a product before and you've received those, hey, Sandra, have you forgotten this in your cart? Or, hey, are you still interested in this item? That would be a purchase intent segmentation. Then there's engagement segmentation. So that would be segmenting your audience based on how much they engage with your content. So that would be a situation where you want to clean up your list a little bit and you want to send out a re-engagement campaign or a sensational offer to someone that hasn't bought from you in like 6 months, so you can get them back on a horse. Value-based segmentation. So Sephora not only has like the best makeup and skincare, but they have some of the best email marketing in the world, hands down. They are good. They are so good. I even get emails from Sephora when I go to another city or another country, and they email me saying, hey, there's a Sephora in your city, go visit us. So value-based segmentation would be customers, when you're segmenting customers based on their lifetime value. So Sephora does this really well with their VIP status, so very important beauty insider, which is the equivalent of a very important person. When you reach a certain status, you're exclusive now, so they send you all these exclusive deals and exclusive content that the non-VIP Rouge don't receive. I have seen VIP subscriber lists do really well with early launches, early collection access, and so on. Then you have your cultural segmentation and interest-based segmentation. So that will be addressing cultural differences and also dividing your audience by their interests and hobbies. So a lot here, a lot to dissect and unpack. So if you're extremely new with segmentation, you have no idea where to start, I would say start here. If you are looking at segmenting your audience for automations, then I would do, at the very least, new subscribers versus first-time buyers versus repeat buyers and abandoned cart users. So new subscribers are really important, right? The way you communicate to someone that just came on your email marketing list will set the tone for your communication, your relationship with them in the future, along with how much money you're going to make as a result of this relationship. It's critical to tell your brand story, to tell them what makes you unique and different and how you solve their problems right off the gate. First-time buyers. So someone that has purchased from you, you shouldn't just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, right? No, they should receive some emails after they buy from you where you absolutely thank them for being a customer, a trusted community partner, family member, whatever you want to call them. But you want to segment out your first-time customers and let them know how thankful you are for their purchase. Now, with the repeat buyers, you also want to thank them for the purchase, but these are the guys that will give you more than a lot of other segments on your email marketing list. Because with a repeat buyer, you know that they like your product already, you know that they trust your brand. So when you segment out your repeat buyer, when you're sending out those emails, you don't want to say, hey, thank you for purchasing. You want to say, hey, thank you so much for purchasing again. You know what? It was amazing to have you purchase the first time. And I will say that's probably not a lot, but maybe that's a little bit easier than getting you to purchase again the second time and a third time. Because to me, the brand owner, to see that you have purchased again, Sandra, when you have so many options out there, it really means that you are aligned with our values, that you like our products, and then you see tremendous value in what we have to offer. When you have that kind of language with the repeat customer, they're going to continue buying over and over and over and over and over again. Abandoned cart users, right? So when you are bringing traffic to your website, you're probably usually spending some sort of money, whether it's SEO and you're paying marketers or someone internally, whether it's ads with Google, Facebook, Instagram, and so on, or TikTok, you are spending money to bring that person to the checkout page. Now, if I go to the checkout page and I put stuff in my basket and I don't buy, well, you're essentially losing revenue, right, at this point. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are capturing as many of the purchases as you possibly can. So with your abandoned cart users, that's one of the first flows that I set up when I'm setting up flows for a new brand. It's because you're minimizing the lost revenue, the potentially lost revenue. So that's for automations. If you're getting started with automations, start there. Campaigns, if you want to get started with segmenting your audience for week-on-week campaign purposes, I will start with active subscribers, inactive subscribers, VIP, and deal seekers. So active subscribers, someone that just regularly opens, engages with your emails. Inactive subscribers will be the ones that haven't opened or engaged with an email in X amount of time. You can decide what that looks like to you. That helps to keep a clean list, and you really don't want to email your inactive subscribers over and over and over again because it's going to hurt your deliverability. Now, your VIP subscribers, those are the ones that are going to give you the reviews, give you the testimonials. Those are the ones that you want to offer the exclusive access to the new collection or the sales first. And then you have the deal seeker. So if you're running contests, for instance, and you're collecting email addresses because someone has entered a contest to win whatever, those people may not always be the most actively or big spenders all the time because they're looking for deals, looking for something either free or reduced. However, you can always email them when you have a sensational deal. So those are good people to email on Black Friday, for instance, or you can email them to offer more contests and more freebies in exchange for something that you want, like a testimonial. I'm going to breeze a little bit through these because I believe I'm covering a lot of the time that I have allocated today, but I put together some ideas for your top segmentation. So when it comes to new subscribers, things you can do is offer a welcome discount, provide introduction to the brand, tell your brand story. With your first-time buyers, you want to send thank you email, like I said, with a personalized product recommendation maybe, but you want to send across the message that you are extremely thankful and grateful for them giving you your business. So here's an example of email where we are sending a follow-up to an order. And what we found with this brand specifically is that because this is a boating company where they are they're buying parts to work on their boats, they need a lot of guides. So yes, there's a lot of buttons in there, but that's because everybody has different needs depending on the kind of boats they have. So our follow-up emails are looking like, hey, Sandra, thank you for buying your boat part. By the way, you want to know how to install it? You want to know how to do this and that? Here are some guides. Repeat buyers, you want to share content that aligns with their purchase history if you can. Encourage them to join your rewards, memberships, whatever you have to offer, whatever someone that is a loyal customer will give back to you. And then with your abandoned cart users, even if you are not the kind of brand that gives out discounts, sending a discount code to an abandoned cart user to a cart recovery sequence is not really cheapening the brand, in my opinion. It's really not spending additional money on A, buying data by sending traffic to your checkout page, and B, getting more shoppers through your ads. So your abandoned cart users, you want to send out emails where you cover anything that they could possibly have in their minds that will keep them back from making a purchase with you. For your active subscribers, these are your regular subscribers that are engaging with you. So you want to, anything from like feedback, regular campaigns, education, entertainment. Your inactive subscribers, don't email them that much. Email them once in a while, sensational deals, or maybe re-engagement campaigns, maybe a survey. Hey, we want to hear back from you. Is our content in line with you? What can we do to serve you better? Your VIP subscribers are the ones that will receive, like I said, early access. I have seen campaigns that made like $100,000 in like a weekend just with the VIP subscribers, because we created a super exclusive offer for a super exclusive group of people. And they knew they were exclusive because we weren't just saying they're VIP. We said, okay, let's look at the people that purchased at least 5 times or at least $1,000 in the last year. And they know they're VIP, so that we treated them like VIP. So that would be my one advice for you. Create a VIP segment if you're a B2B brand and send them exclusive deals. And then deal seekers would be deals, maybe a specific flash sale for them, see if you can re-engage them and get them to try and buy your product. So with that, with your audience segmentation, there's another element to it, which is keeping a clean list, squeaky clean. So keeping a clean list in email marketing really means maintaining an updated email marketing that's error-free. Sarah mentioned a little bit earlier that some emails may bounce. That's when you want to have a look at what's happening in your email marketing list and make sure that you don't have a lot of bounces. You are getting the click-through rates. You are getting the open rates. So that would mean removing inactive subscribers, correcting any email addresses that are mistakenly input, and making sure that you're only really dealing with a list that contains individuals that are genuinely interested. So a clean list will give you better deliverability. It will give you higher engagement rates, and it's going to give you improved send reputation. That will affect all other analytics in your email marketing, because if your emails are not being sent to inbox because you have a lot of junk emails in your email list, then you can't possibly have the high open rates, and then you're not going to have the high click rates, and you're not going to have the high booking or purchase rates. So a few tips for keeping your list clean would be regular cleaning. So that would be regular audits, see what's happening in your email list and cleaning up. So that's what we call list hygiene. Use double opt-in. So if you find that you have a lot of bounces, a lot of email addresses that are not real, that are coming organically or through your ads, and I will use a double opt-in. So that would be when you are requesting your subscriber to confirm that they have opted in, not out, on your list by clicking on an email that they've received. So then you know that only real email addresses will be, or the majority of it, because they're going to have to go in their email to click on it. Remove all hard bounces. So yes, there's power in numbers, but there's no power in numbers that don't matter and help you. So anyone that's a hard bounce, remove them. Just ruthlessly remove them. You can do re-engagement campaigns. That's something that I like to do from time to time, maybe twice a year or so. Let's send a re-engagement campaign to someone that's not really active. Maybe it can be a flash sale. Maybe it can be flash sale actually works the best, to be honest, because it just gives them the opportunity to buy from you again, re-engage with you, and see what you're all about. Of course, compliance with regulations. So make sure your email list adheres to the legal regulations. So Canada, we have the Can-Spam Act. In the EU, we have the GDPR. So whatever country you're in, whatever sector you're serving, make sure that you are keeping up with regulations. That's also by sector, not just by location. And then your list cleaning tools. So most email service providers will give you list cleaning tools. So Klaviyo, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, so on. And there's one more thing you can do to keep a clean list. It's to segment your audience. So again, segmentation is not just a tool for targeted marketing. It's actually a very critical aspect in maintaining a clean list and keeping your email marketing list healthy. So when you're recognizing the needs of your audiences and when you're working them, when you're leveraging them, when you're going to see that using their full power will give you amazing results in return. So thank you so much for attending. We are opening the floor for questions. I know some of you have asked some questions in the chat. I didn't see it on my presentation time, but I'll go back to see if I can answer anything. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Any questions, please feel free to post them here in the comments. Sandra, thank you so much for this session. And Sarah and Andrew, this was super, super interesting. And it was an amazing start for the Mayple Academy. So thank you so much. Audience, anyone who participates here, feel free to post any questions that you have right now. We will share the recording with everyone here. We will reshare the link and the promo code that you just got. It is exclusive to the participants of this webinar. So with this promo code and link, you can actually hire the amazing speakers that we had here in the webinar, and to really make sure that you're 10x, 5x, improving your email marketing results and performance. Right now in August, before Q4 is coming our way, and the holiday season is coming. So it's the perfect time to get started and to really make sure your emails are working and effectively for your business. Thank you so much for preparing all those amazing strategies and tips here, team. You're amazing. And looking forward to meeting everyone here in the team and here, whoever participated in our next webinars. So this is the first out of many. We will have weekly webinars. Really, we've put a lot of effort in building this amazing community of experts, and each week, a few of them will share their tips, their strategies, and really you're getting those from the most experienced experts in the industry. So come to our next webinars as well. Make sure you see those emails, register, and I look forward to seeing you in the next ones as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.